continuing still on November 28th. This is the 19th tape in these series of tapes of remembering beloved Baba, Meherwan Jessawala, sharing some of his reminiscences. And you've just been talking about Kaka.
Yeah.
Kaka Baria, his heart condition at the end of the last.
Yes, so this reminds me of Dr. Ginde's heart condition. As I said, he also suffered a massive heart attack a year or two ago. And when he came with Mr. Joshi, he was here for a day or so, overnight. He stayed overnight. He asked Baba's permission so that he could see that Joshi was doing his job well before Dr. Ginde returned. So he was here for one night, if I remember rightly. So in the evening, when Baba retired, then Dr. Ginde expressed the desire to visit the base of the seclusion hill. He said he had a great desire to see Baba's hill. So Erich was a bit diffident, and he said, but doctor, the road is rough and there's a little climb even up to the base of the hill. So he says, never mind, have no worry, I'm quite fit. So then we made ready. So Erich, myself, Dr. Ginde, and I think there was this Noshir Khodabanda. He was one of the people who was allowed to stay here with the Mandli at that time.
What's his name again?
Noshir Khodabanda. But he said he didn't like the name. So I told Baba, give me some other name. So Baba says, all right, from today you are Sam. So he was known as Sam. A very funny character.
What a name for Noshir.
Yeah.
Sam?
Yeah. So Baba just said, from today we'll call you Sam. That's more concise also and convenient for all. And he was happy about it. So I'll tell you his escapade later. So we proceed on this walk, and so we go to the base of the hill, and Dr. Ginde was struck by the beauty of the place. It was so serene. At that time, it was really very quiet. There were no settlements all around. For miles all around, you wouldn't see any habitation, and it would be so very quiet, unlike what it is these days. Although it is still very quiet, but compared to those days, it's quite noisy now. And you see many settlements all around. So he was struck by the serene beauty of the place. And then he said, Erich, why not we go a few steps further? So Erich says, yes, doctor, if you feel like, but are you sure you'll be all right? Oh, he says, have no worry. So then we start to go up a little. And then Erich said, now, doctor, don't we think we should return from here? No, he says, I would like to go a little further. And he just kept going up and up. He was resting on the way. But despite entreaties from Erich, he says, no, now I have decided to go to the top of the hill. Nothing can stop me from doing that. I have tested my, what did he say, my stamina and all that, and I think I'm all right. I have no distress in my heart. I know what I'm doing. So have no worry. In the meantime, the women somehow came to see us going up, and they reported to Baba, Now Baba began to become restless. He says, Erich should have some sense to take him up there. What will happen if he gets a heart attack there? He's a heart patient. Wow, how is allowing him to go up there? And And he kept fretting and fuming there in the room and kept sending by power somebody to see where they are, have they returned back, see where they are. So Baba is extremely restless here and extremely concerned about Ginde. And here Ginde is having a fine time admiring the beauty of the Lord's seclusion hill and gaily climbing up the hill. And then we reached the first level, the lower level. So it says, I think, Doctor, we'll stop here. This is quite good enough. No, he says, now that we have come here, I must be right on the top.
So that last part is the difficult part.
Yeah, that narrow ledge was there. So, yes, he just went right up to the top. And Baba's here very worried. And people telling him not to worry. So, that was the funny part of the whole thing. Baba worrying for him and he's enjoying himself. So we went right up there, and then of course there was a beautiful sunset. And he fell in love with the hill, as it were. So we were there for some time, and then we made our way back to Meherazad, and Baba heaved a sigh of relief when we were back home safely. But he sent word with somebody, I think, to Erich, that he should have had better sense to take Ginde up the hill. And he sent word back that this is what happened, Baba, what could I do? So, yeah.
This was January, February, something like that.
January. I would be here on that time.
Yeah.
So, during that time.
Yeah. So a beautiful time to go up.
Yeah.
Clear.
Very nice. Clear skies after the monsoons. Yeah. So there we were back there. Then I remember Ginde singing a song for us. He called for the harmonium. He says, I would like to sing a nice bhajan. So in the quiet of Meherazad, here is Ginde singing away. Some bhajan in praise of the Lord. And in fact, his brother is a classical singer of Indian classical music. So one day he had brought his brother to Guru Prasad for a performance, but the pure classical style, which Baba doesn't quite appreciate, Yeah.
How was Gindi as a singer?
Oh, nice. He was a man of many talents. Yeah. So you never know these people. So apart from their other skills, they had these other hidden skills also. Yes. So then Ginde left, but Joshi continued to stay here, and he would be attending on Baba while he was here.
Joshi was the
masseur. Masseur. So I remember Joshi was here, and one afternoon we were here in the hall, and the few of the Mandli and Baba, and we were playing cards, So Baba hears Joshi's voice. He was with one or two of the Mandli taking the round and coming from the front. So Baba says, oh, he shouldn't see us playing cards. We said, Baba, what's the harm? No. It wouldn't be good for him to see us. So locked the door. So I went and locked this door so that he wouldn't come in if he tried to get in. And then he said, now play very quietly. Let's not make any noise. Yeah. So Baba was very mindful of people who were not ready for certain things. So not to present those facets of his being to these people. Yeah. But we didn't know, of course. But when Baba said, then we went along. Yeah.
At this sort of time, who would be playing? You would be playing, and Erich and
Kaikobad, he was a very good card player. Expert card player, yeah.
Oh.
Extremely skillful. Yeah. But he had this great respect for Baba, So I would partner him because I was the dumb fellow of the lot. So Baba would pair me with him. And he was so skillful that despite my dumbness, we would win most of the time.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
And Baba's party would get defeated. So there is a game where the opposite party, if it gets the chance to declare the trumps, and then plays this game, and if the opposing side wins all the tricks, then it's a very bad defeat.
Yeah.
It's like a shit coat has been put upon you. So we call it goo coat.
Goo coat.
Yeah, goo is shit,
Right. I see. A goo coat. I see.
So Baba would do this. So we came to a point where we were on the point of doing this, inflicting this. So Kaikobad wouldn't win that game, The last trick he just surrendered. And I was upset. Why Kaikobad? We could have done this. He says, no. Do you have any sense in you what you are talking? I used to get carried away with the game. Yeah. Very skillful player, Kaikobad, yeah.
Who would be Baba's partner in a game like that?
It would be four of us for this game.
Some particular selection of
four. So somebody else, Medas was there. He was also a good player. Or sometimes some other mandali who would be available. Yeah. And have good fun. It was relaxation for Baba,
Yeah.
So, he would be careful that people who wouldn't understand Baba's ways should not have wrong impressions. All right, so
Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
After tea time, we were just talking about playing cards in this very room we're sitting in.
Yeah. Yeah, so we would, as I said, be carried away in the spirit of the game, and there would be some people who reminded us, like Kaikobad. In fact, Meherdas would be very free with Baba, and Baba in fact encouraged him to be very free.
Was he still around in these days?
Yeah, he was there. Meherdas, mind you.
Meherdas, right.
Yeah. Not Krishnaji, huh?
Right, but Meherdas, who with that episode with the dead boy coming to life.
That's right. The one who had the experience of seeing him as Ram, I think.
Right, that's right.
So he would be if he was a little restrained, Baba would encourage him not to be restrained, and from one hand Kaikobad would growl at him that he was being disrespectful to Baba. And Baba would encouraging him to be free in front of him. Yeah.
So Kaikobad didn't like that.
Yeah. We would never take liberties, despite whatever it would be. We always knew. But he was rather a newcomer, and so he just took literally what Baba would say and would oftentimes cross the line, as it.
Baba wouldn't reprimand him.
No.
Baba let him do it.
Let him do. That was Baba's ways, Any newcomer would be taken down the rosy path,
A broad latitude, and then later.
Yeah, then the jerk comes in. Yeah. This reminds me when Baba was having trouble after the accident, and we used to play indoor games with Baba, and one day we were playing a game called Carrom Board. It consists of a big square board with 4 holes in the corner, and there were small round wooden pieces which had to be struck with a striker and to be sent into these pockets.
That there's still a board at the Pilgrim Center even.
Yes.
Power cut there.
Yeah.
You've been talking about Carrom.
Yeah, so I was talking about how we get carried away in Baba's presence. So this reminds me of a game of Carrom that we were playing. Indoor games after Baba's accident, mostly Baba wouldn't play outdoors after that. So
where was this?
After 56.
Yeah, there was never a Carrom Board here.
Yeah. We had one at Bindra House, so Baba called for it from there.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. So we had Carrom Board. Then we had a table tennis table also over here, and which was subsequently taken to Guru Prasad, where Baba used to play to give him exercise, So some form of recreation and exercise. Yeah.
Right.
And Baba always liked to play games, right from the early days. Yeah. And always insisted upon the Mandli also to engage in sports or walks or such physical activity to keep the mind fresh and away from dangerous things. Yeah, so this came of Carrom, and I was partnering Baba, and we were playing this game, and in the course of the game, Baba would miss several easy shots, So I was rather feeling upset that Baba is missing simple shots. So I got so carried away. I left my place, went over where Baba was sitting, and I said, "Baba, you must put your finger this way and aim that way." So suddenly Baba looks up at me and he says, I know all these things. I was teaching the Lord what to do. And I realized suddenly that I had forgotten his divinity and just took him to be quite ordinary. So he had to remind me in this little gentle way.
There's an infinite art, isn't there, of playing to where he wants, but then
not to get too carried away in all this. So Baba was quick to remind us. And we took the hint immediately. Yes, so this was one of the things Meherdas would do, would spread out his feet and all that. Kekobad wouldn't like that, so he would take him aside and say, have some sense. You're facing the Lord of creation. Don't forget that whatever it is, don't put out your feet like that. It's so disrespectful. So he would do that, and then Baba would tell him, why are you doing this? Why are you sitting like this today? All cramped up. So he had a way of getting around the older Mandli also, Yes. So Baba had asked him to be free with him. Right. So he had to do that,
So actually that was...
So his order was more important than whatever we felt in.
That would no doubt be a way in which Baba could rankle people.
quite possible,
What was Kaifabad doing here at that time? I thought that he was at Meherwan.
No, he was always with Baba. Only after Baba dropped his body that he opted to go to Meherwan.
I see, with his daughters.
And stay with his family there. But till the last he was with Baba.
He's another one doesn't hear very much about.
But mostly Baba would give him some work, and he was constantly repeating Baba's name.
Right.
He had to do it a certain number of times each day. And Baba would sit with him all alone and do some work, bow down to him. And he was doing all this sort of work for Baba. Yeah.
I see.
And mostly he would keep to himself. He wouldn't be around when the general monthly were doing correspondence or anything. Yeah. Only during the prayers or when Baba called him that he would come and be here. Yeah.
Now I have gathered that he actually had some sort of inner experiences of Baba, and that's part of what Baba was doing with him, in fact.
Yeah. The experiences were a sort of, what shall we say, an offshoot or a byproduct, which Baba didn't give much importance to, and didn't want any of us to give any importance to. Yeah. The important thing was he was doing Baba's work, and in that he had these experiences. So that was how it was.
Well, I never quite thought about it as fully as just at the moment, but that was a kind of a distinctive role among the Mandalay, to be repeating God's name.
Yeah.
Sort of a meditative.
Some Mandalay, in the old days, pleader was one such who had to undergo such disciplines. Sit in a room for months on end. It was very difficult. And Baba said, had it not been for my grace, the leader could never have done what he did, in fact. So, leader had all this big fad of God realization and all that. So, then something happened and he left Baba for quite a long time. But towards the end of his life, then he again came to Baba. And then Baba sent him to Meherwan. And in the last minute of his existence, he seemed to have had some experience. That's what we heard. As Baba had promised him, he would give him a sight of his real self or some such thing. And he did mention that he was seeing something very bright, although it was all dark, and he asked people to shut the lights. Some such thing had happened. Yes. So that is all. In fact, Iraj also tells us one day about this meditation business. That one day they were in Satara, I think, and Baba suddenly asked them that, look, just now I want you people, there were 3 or 4 mandali sitting with him. So just when I clap, you go out and sit in some nice secluded place outside and start to meditate upon me. And when I clap, then come back. And then he gave some hint as to what they should meditate upon. The aspect of God's effulgence or some such thing, I think it is mentioned. So then the Irachandamani just went out, as Baba said, and they began to do this. And it said he felt very nice. He had some good experience of this effulgent light surrounding him or something. And just then Baba clapped. So they all came back. Baba says, never do it again.
So that's his experience of meditation. Did you ever have an order from Baba to meditate or anything of that kind?
In the early days, Baba used to give to all the mandali. In 40s, early 40s, there used to be these little spells of 15 minutes or half an hour that we had to meditate on him. And in fact, Baba had issued a sort of write-up which we had to read as part of the meditation, which you'll find in the discourses.
That's right, the divine theme.
The divine theme, that's right. So we had to read that. And after reading it, we had to go through it in our minds, what it was that Baba was conveying, and try to assimilate it. So that was the meditation we had.
Which is the theme of evolution, reincarnation,
that's right.
evolution, the journey to God.
Journey to God. And in later stages also, Baba would ask us to sit and meditate for a few minutes. Yeah, whenever he gave the orders, then we had to do it, but not otherwise. Generally, not encouraged on our own. Yeah. So, where are we now? Yeah, so this Carrom game, and such instances would be there while in Baba's presence. We would just forget that what Baba was, and then he would remind us that, remember, I am God, don't forget that. These gentle reminders would immediately be there when we cross the line, as it were. Yeah. So then that time I remember Baba's brother Adi and his family came to Mehrazad for a short stay. I think it was on the occasion of little Shireen's thread ceremony, if I mistake not. Or probably I may be mistaken, but that was the occasion, and the whole family was here. And
would that have been Dara at that time, or was he living with Vilu?
Pardon?
The whole family would mean Adi and Freni?
Adi, Freni, Shireen. And I don't know whether Dara was there. Probably Dara was working, I think. And he didn't get leave or something was there. So the only three of them had come. I don't recollect Dara being here at that time. If we asked Dara, probably he would remember. But I don't remember him being here. But Adi, Freni and little Shireen was tiny at that time. So she was here. A very beautiful little child, and flitting from the women's side to the men's side and trying to be where Baba was. Baba would be seated here, and she would just suddenly come in playfully. Once I remember Baba was sitting and we were busy with some correspondence. She just walked in and she says, Baba, I've made a hat for you. And it was a hanky with 4 knots at the corners, and she put it on Baba, with those 4 knots. So, and she says, Baba, you look nice now, and keep it on. And she just romps off, and Baba leaves it on, looking very comical, Yeah. She was very fond of Baba from her very early childhood. And sometimes she would come and question Baba all sorts of little child-like questions. And one particular question I remember was when she asked Baba, these snakes and these geckos, or what do you call them? Lizards.
Yeah, lizards, geckos.
Geckos. Yeah. They frighten me, Baba. Why did you make this in creation? Or some such thing the child said to Baba. And Baba looks to Erich and says something to her. So Erich didn't know what to reply. She just said, look, when you feel frightened, you should remember Baba, and this is an occasion which makes you remember Baba, so they serve some such purpose. But she didn't seem to like that. Remembering Baba. She says, I can remember Baba without these things. So then Baba says, all right. Then Baba said, look how nice looking you are and so pretty. But early in the morning, don't you have to go and sit on the potty and relieve yourself of all the unclean and dirty things and the ugly things? So she said, yes, Baba. And doesn't that make you feel good and keep you healthy and all nice? So she says, yes, Baba. So Baba says, accordingly, just those ugly things which come out of you, So these creatures in creation have come out of me. They are a part of my creation. And they serve some purpose of cleaning up things, just as you clean up your system. In a very childlike language, Baba explained. And she was so happy and immediately satisfied. Yeah.
That's really a very profound answer.
Yeah. So, we were all struck by the answer. So Baba could be on any level, from the child to the principal of the Delhi college, which Erich told us the other day, satisfying all sorts of people. On all levels.
During that time, in the 60s basically, I don't have the impression there are many children here. Children were rarely here except for darshan days. Is that true?
Yeah. In what other occasion could you have? Because this latter part of the 60s were mainly periods of intense seclusion, because Baba's ministry was coming to an end, and Baba's internal work was being speeded up tremendously, and Baba was more and more withdrawing into himself. So much so that even the close Manli didn't feel close to Baba, as it were. He was distancing himself, as it were, physically. The correspondence, Baba, even in the later stages, he wouldn't hear correspondence, and the Manli had to reply on their own with all the experience they had of Baba, unless it was something extremely important which had to have his attention, something like a death or some emergency, then Baba could be brought into it. Otherwise, Baba just didn't want any disturbance. And all these things were a sort of disturbance for him. So more and more he was withdrawing into himself.
Could you feel that in 1965, that stay you were there? Was that there yet? Or?
Well, it was coming towards that. But not so much in 65, but in the later 2 years, it was more and more. And the last year, it was tremendous. So we could feel that Baba was really under great pressure. And his health was all the while frail and failing. So a sort of constant weight upon one's mind would be there with Baba. On the one hand, his physical health, on the other side, this constant workload, and so it used to be a sort of difficult stay in the later stages. So I think I've fairly covered my Mirazat stay of that year. I can't recollect much more, but if something crops up, I'll see.
During this time, preparations must have been going ahead pace for the 1965 Easterners Darshan. So the circulars had been sent out, and the Westerners were told that it was not the time for them to come, because it was the summertime and Baba had specially selected it only for the Easterners. And except for 2 or 3 Westerners like Harry Canmore, who was allowed to be with Baba, he was an irrepressible person, so he must have an exception. And of course Joseph Hab was staying in Pune, so he was there, and I think 1 or 2 others, probably Ben Heyman, I think, had come again. So apart from these people, no Westerners were asked to come for this gathering, and they were told that Baba had fixed the time of December for the Westerners, so they should wait till then, and Baba would definitely give them darshan in December 65.
So that
Why
was,
May? I mean, that seems like a horrible time for darshan, where it's blazing heat.
that was the favorite time for Baba, and 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
The worst time of the day. Yeah.
The maximum heat from 2 to 5 of any day you will see. Baba seems to have some affinity for heat.
Yeah.
In Muhammad's time, he was in the desert. I think that carried forward in this life, in this incarnation. So he didn't mind the heat, it seems. And despite the heat, when he retired into his room, he would have the doors, windows all sealed, curtains drawn. And the poor watch people had the heck of a time, sweating away, and feeling very stuffy and very hot. Yeah. And of course the mosquitoes would do their best to add to the discomfort. So all in all, it was Baba's favorite time, the hot season. Baba never liked the wind or air, especially wind blowing on his face, because that gave him the sneezes. Yeah. I remember once we had gone out for an outing, and it suddenly began to blow hard, and immediately Baba had the spell of sneezing, and he just kept on sneezing and sneezing. Yeah, man had to hold big handkerchief to. Yeah, so something had happened to the nasal membrane, I think, and it
accident.
Possibly, yeah. But even before that, even before the accident, you would see that he's all covered up, especially his nose. He would cover up, and the same was the case with his mother. She would, I remember, always hold a handkerchief on her nose. He was very susceptible to cold air. And Mani has the same characteristics. She never likes to use a fan or something. So, but Mehra was the exact opposite. She always liked open air and fresh air. Yeah.
Was Baba susceptible to getting colds and sinus infections?
Yeah, so he had to be careful. So anybody had the cold was quarantined immediately. And I would get these allergies, in the cold season when I used to come. So somebody would say, Baba, he's got a cold. So he said, no, it's not a cold, it's an allergy. That's not infectious. So I would be excused. But it was that. I also am susceptible to cold air. I think probably all of us must be like that. So, so Baba would select this hot time of the year for his programs, So the circular had gone out that Baba would give darshan in May, and previously it was going to be a 15-day affair, I think. But then Baba ultimately decided that it should be only for a week because of the weak condition of his health. And besides, Dr. Ginde was very insistent. He said, Baba, you have this cervical condition, and straining yourself like this would be disastrous for this condition, and embracing people is totally out. So I request you at least not to embrace people. So then Baba reluctantly agreed, and then it was given out that Baba would not embrace people during this occasion, that he would curtail the period of darshan to just a week, and that people, instead of Baba embracing them, they would be allowed to bow down at Baba's feet, which was allowed after many years.
That had never been allowed before for a long time.
Yeah.
So this was new.
Yeah, so this was the first time that the Baba's lovers were allowed this liberty to bow down at his feet. And in fact, he gave a message, something to the effect that now, in the old days, he used to embrace his lovers and bow down to their love, and now it was time for his lovers to bow down to his love for them.
Yeah.
Something to that effect. Yeah. So we see that in the darshan program held at the Pune Center, and then the Easterners program in Guru Prasad.
Yeah.
Yes, so circulars had gone out, and the Pune people were very frantic because it was there was an expectation of a very large crowd wanting to have Baba's darshan, because for many years there was a lot of restriction on Baba's darshan. So they were expecting an unprecedented rush. So a volunteer group was formed by the Pune Center people. Even outsiders had come and to help to secure accommodation at different places, and volunteers would be placed there to look after the Baba people and look after the belongings when they left to have Baba's darshan. So they tried their level best to make it a sort of smooth function. And by Baba's grace it passed off very nicely, despite the tremendous rush, because everybody wanted to grab this opportunity. You know.
Was this an open darshan for everyone?
No,
or just
lovers, yeah. But the lovers' army had become quite huge by then. This was after the darshan tours and then all these years of seclusion and withdrawal. So there was a lot of pent-up feelings, you know, and they all wanted to be with Baba for many years, and here was the chance now. So Andhra people were getting these special bogies booked. The Hamirpur people were chartering buses, and also the Bombay and Gujarat groups and all. So huge crowds turned up, yes. So when Baba came to Guru Prasad, of course, Baba had declared that until 1st of May he had not to be disturbed. And so for the first month, I think, it was all very quiet and in expectation of the great event which was to follow. And only a few of us would be with Baba at that time. And these preparations would be going on. The pandal at the back of Guru Prasad was being constructed again. And as usual, Bapu Sahib Shinde, who was a very big stalwart for Baba's work, he was a great help. Yeah. So also Barjor Bodh, he was here yesterday. Yeah. So these people rendered all assistance to us, and so these preparations were going on. And as promised by Baba to Ramakrishna, the secretary of Pune Center, that he would give darshan the next year. So Baba kept the promise, and on 1st May, Baba went to the Pune Center on its first anniversary after the opening.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Just a year before.
Yeah, just the year before Baba had opened the center. And it was a rather small affair at that time, but now it was a huge affair, because all these people from all over India had congregated there, and so the hall was packed to capacity. And they had built these shamiyanas and tents outside. They were all filled up. There was a solid mass of people awaiting Baba right from the early morning, you know. And a queue had already formed. So all down the approach road, that original approach road through the KEM hospital grounds, and right onto the road and leading for way down somewhere we don't know, probably a mile down the road or something. A huge queue was there. When I tried to enter, I was struck by the sight of it. Because I had to attend to all the marketing and this before I could come there. And despite Eraj warning us that you all should come as early as possible, otherwise you may not get a chance to get inside also. So which proved true, that we had to just push ourselves way in just to get into the premises. Yeah, the queue apart, there was no question of being in the queue. And so the darshan began, and Baba, people filed past Baba as was arranged. This time the chair was placed right at the edge of the dais, and people were taking darshan. Yeah. So it was a nice program. And of course Baba's health was frail. When I was here, I could see how Baba was suffering with neck pain, the hip joint pain, and his general frail physical health. But on the day of darshan, as usual, Baba was different, extremely radiant and beautiful looking. And on that day particularly, he really looked resplendent. So the people also were just struck by his beauty. Yeah. And after so many years they were seeing him, so there was a mad stampede, as it were, to be in his presence. Yeah, and when the darshan was over, then Baba came back to Guru Prasad, and some of us were there again. So then he asked, how was the program? And we all said, very good, Baba. How did I look? So he asked me, and I said, Baba, you looked extremely beautiful and radiant. And Baba was quite happy with the reply. Yeah, he would ask, how did I look? Yeah. So this would make him feel nice when we said, and it was a fact, really. Yeah.
That's quite a burden he would have to carry, because his lovers would come expecting to see him. And if they didn't, it would be hard to...
Yeah, but I suppose the love that his lovers poured out to him made him respond that way,
Yeah.
That was a sort of automatic response. And all the color would come onto him, and he would really, it would be a different spectacle altogether.
And at the end of a program like that, he must have been in a good mood after such a day.
But in the nights, of course, then it would be hell for the night watchman. Yeah. That was a different story altogether. But all throughout that darshan week, or 10 days or whatever it was, Baba kept up very well. The next day then, the darshan was only at Guru Prasad. It was only for one day at Pune Center, and then at Guru Prasad the rest of the days. And Baba was equally radiant there. And the Pune people, of course, were asked to sit right at in the back rows. So, and having the experience of 3 years back, when when they were all doused with rain,
Yeah.
So, in fact, when the first day the darshan began, in the night it did rain very heavily again. So everybody was worried, but of course the darshan was in the hall. So in the morning it had cleared up somewhat. It was still very cloudy, but quite fresh after a heavy shower. So it had cooled down. The intense heat also was somewhat less because of the showers. But then it became again very muggy in the afternoon with the moisture and all that. So for Guru Prasad, it was in the open now in the Shamiana. So not to take any risk, they had put up these corrugated tin roof on the top, so that if it rained, then at least there would be some protection. So up to about halfway down or so, it was covered. But there was no rain after the first night. So the tin roof made it just like an oven inside.
I was thinking.
Yeah. So it was a little dark and it was hot and it just suited Baba, you know. He was totally drenched in sweat, of course.
Yeah.
And Neeraj had to constantly mop his brow.
Yeah.
We see that in the picture. So often Neeraj is wiping his brow.
Yeah. Were the crowds, were they larger than the East-West gathering, or was it similar to that?
I think larger. Yeah. It was huge. Yeah. Huge masses of people had come. So, and we see Baba being offered something to drink, and Baba makes a sign. It might, it might make me want to go piddle. Don't give me too much of it. Have you seen that sign Baba makes?
No, I didn't know.
So he's being offered this, and Baba says, I don't want to take it. I might want to have to piddle, and where can I go?
Yeah.
So Baba had to sit through all the darshan hours, and he sat there all the while. Yes, so he took upon himself a lot of physical discomfort. And so for the back rows, then Baba would stand up and wave all around, so that they could get a sight of Baba from the distance. It was quite a long distance, Yeah, Baba would appear like a tiny dot at the end of the huge pandal. So that was the Easterners gathering, and Baba just gave them all their love, all his love, and they were all very satisfied.
How was his health at that time?
Well, this neck pain was there.
That was still there.
Yeah, and the hip, off and on it was there. Baba was in constant pain, there was no question about it. And the intense strain of this darshan then aggravated it afterwards. Yeah. So the rest of the state was a very difficult thing for all the few of us that were with Baba, and it was all the while groans and bad health and all that. Yeah. After the big show was over, the darshan.
That was the only darshan during that.
That entire stay, After the big darshan, then there were still few people left over, and requests were pouring in. So Baba, I think, extended for 2 or 3 days more, but not in the pandal, but in the side room, the Mandli hall as we call it. And that would be packed with people and the leftovers, as it were. Wanting the last chance to have Baba's darshan, because that was the last time they would see Baba. Of course, we didn't know about it at the time. That was his last public appearance to his lovers.
Now, at the time, it had been anticipated that there would be a Westerner's darshan at the end of the year.
Yeah, but that also subsequently fizzled out. Anyway, so. And of course the volunteers were there, So these volunteers never had even come to Guru Prasad, so many of them. The whole entire darshan days. So Baba didn't forget them. So one day he gave for all the volunteers who had worked for him. So they had their day also. And they were rewarded for their labor of love by the Lord of Love himself. And he just filled them with his loving presence, and they were all very satisfied. They had a very close contact with Baba, unlike the crowds, So they got back in full measure. Yeah. After that, again, the seclusion started again, and Guru Prasad was out of bounds for the general public as well as other lovers, except the few of us who were allowed to see him. And the rest of the stay was very quiet. And we would have these very intimate days with Baba in his close presence and all that. So I think one of those days we were with Baba, and he was sitting on the front veranda there, to the Mandli side of the porch, and just we were chatting away, nothing in particular, and Baba suddenly remembered one stanza of Kabir, in which the words are Rang lagat lagat lage, Bahu bhagat bhagat bhage, Bahut din ka soya manwa, Jagat jagat jage. So he suddenly remembered this, and then the meaning of it is that Rang means color, Lagat means to catch on. So the color catches on after much effort. Lagat lagat lage. So by much effort, the color finally catches on. Otherwise it just keeps washing off. Bahu bhagat bhagat bhage means, bhagat means to run. After a lot of effort, one gradually learns to run. You can't just straight away start to run. A child has to make the effort to stand up and then take few paces, and eventually he is able to run. So it's a gradual process. So similarly, the mind, bahut din ka soya manwa, means the mind which has been sleeping for many days, jagat jagat jage means that it starts to wake up and wake up and wake up slowly, and until it finally wakes up. So, and then Baba suddenly asked us, what is the meaning of Bahu? Bahu has two meanings. Bahu is also the daughter-in-law in Hindi. And Bahu means also, Bahut means more, much. So Baba was just playing on that word. What is this word Bahu? I remember that he mentioned about that word.
Who did he get? Did someone know these couplets, or did he dictate?
He would gesture, and then of course it's a very well-known couplet. So then you would somebody would recite the whole thing. Yeah. So while on this, at one time Baba had heard some couplet of Kabir, another couplet, and one day he asked Dheeraj to say, do you remember that couplet of Kabir we heard the other day? So Dheeraj said, which, Baba? Which was it? He said, the other day, remember there was something somebody said, and after some thought, Dheeraj says, Baba, this is what I remember today. And he gave out a couplet. And it runs like this. It's a Kabir couplet. So, Kabir khada bazaar mein mange sab ki khair, na kisi se dosti, na kisi se vair. So, Kabir is saying of himself that Kabir is standing in the marketplace asking the welfare of all in front of him. he neither has friendship with anyone nor any enmity with anyone. So Baba said, that's a good one. It's very profound. It wasn't the one that Baba had or was trying to refer to.
Yeah.
And Baba couldn't recollect which one that was. But Dheeraj just on the spur of the moment said this, and he said, this is a very good one.
I've never heard that one either.
It's a very profound thing. It bespeaks of the Sadguru's attitude towards creation. That he neither has any affinity to anyone or any hatred for, because he sees himself in everyone. So therefore he seeks the welfare of all. Without any attachment. So these were little episodes that would happen on the quiet days, Baba.
Did Baba often have people quote Kabir?
Yeah, sometimes he would ask for a certain line, or Baba himself would quote.
Was there someone in the mind, like if Hafez came up, Alaba would be there for the occasion?
Everybody was useless when Hafiz came up. But for Kabir, it is more common in India, so many people know about Kabir. They call it Kabir Vani, the sayings of Kabir. It's a very good whole collection of Kabir's poems, and they are very popular, especially in North India and all. And very profound, some of them.
They're just the ones you cited.
They are very good. No question about it. So on one of these occasions, we have this episode of our neighbor at Guru Prasad who was staying there. You see, the Guru. Did you see Guru Prasad before it was dismantled?
No, I just saw the first time I went, it was just rubble. That was left.
So at least you could have seen the compound wall on one side. And then there was another bungalow similar to Guru Prasad but much smaller, and not in good shape or condition. So in that building there was one person staying there, but he seemed to be a very mysterious person.